Good evening, everyone. This is the Ask Dr. Renee show. I'm Dr. Renee, your host. I am bringing this show to you to motivate and inspire you to live the life you deserve. Today, as you see, I have my pearls on. I'm a little dressed up. I just attended the Evening of Stars for UNCF, and a young man, one of the recipients of one of the scholarships, said, "You have to play life. You cannot let life play you." And I thought that that was a perfect quote for tonight, because you want to make sure that you are living life right now and you're not waiting until the next anything. You need to live life right now while you're living instead of waiting until you're dead. If this is the first time you're watching our show, we've had some great guests in the past. We've had Tanisha Jackson Warner of Agami Consulting, Shanti Das, the hip hop professional of Press Reset Entertainment, LVG of LVG PR, Paul Carrick Brunson of the Paul Carrick Brunson Agency, also Black Enterprises Our World. And any of the past guests, past shows, if you have not seen them, you can watch them anytime on my website, askdrrenee.info, as well as on my YouTube channel, which is Ask Dr. Renee. Our guest today is Raijean Stroud, and Raijean is truly a Renaissance woman, so we are going to let her tell us all the wonderful things she does. But welcome to the show, Raijean.
Thanks for having me.
Oh, thank you so much. So you grew up in Chicago, is that right?
That's correct, on the south side of Chicago.
So tell me about your early years, and what were your ambitions as you know, once you grew up? What did you want to be?
My early years were a little rough. My story isn't traditional. I'm the daughter of a drug addict, so it was kind of a rough life growing up, as you can see. We did a few stints in the projects, and then when I got about 10 or 12, we moved with our grandmother, and then we moved out to the suburbs. So really, growing up, my ambition was really just to be successful. Even though at 10 years old, I don't think I knew what that meant all the way. I just knew that I wanted to be different from my mother and different from what I saw. So when I grew up, I wanted to be a manager in a corporate office, because I thought that that was what success looked like at the age of 10.
That's funny, but you know what? At least you thought that, because I'm sure you know there's many of our youth today that don't clue what that is. So
right.
They just see success as the people on TV. So I'm glad that you actually saw that, and not, you know, necessarily some pipe dream of something else that may never have happened. So, you know, that's good that you saw corporate.
Yeah, it's funny. I didn't know what it looked like, but I knew that that's what I wanted to do, or be a manager. That's what seemed to be important at that time.
So when you went to school, what was your major?
When I went to undergrad, it was business management. So my bachelor's degree, I forgot, is in business management, and then I got my master's in finance.
Okay. So when you were doing all this schooling, what did you think? You still thought you were going to be in corporate America? And
oh yeah, ironically, I've always been a hard worker, so I started working at about 14. I changed my birth certificate so I can work full-time at Burger King. Girl, that's back before all the technology, when you can go to the library and use a typewriter and you can, you know, change your birth certificate. So I started working at about 14 full-time. And so when I worked at Blockbuster for some years, and then after that, about 19, I started working in corporate America. So I kind of was doing it, obviously I started the lower paid jobs, because my idea was, once I got my degree, I wanted to go straight to the high-paying job. I didn't want anything to hold me back. I didn't want lack of experience. I didn't want an internship. I wanted them to hire me straight off of my degree. So by the time I started at 19, so by the time I finished my degree, a few years later, I had worked in every department, and I went straight to management. So when I had my degree, I was already there. So I didn't have to do the whole look for the job thing. I had already been on my job for about 4 or 5 years at that point.
Oh, wow. That's
I was serious. I knew what I wanted. It was planned out. It was going to happen.
So you get your master's in finance, then what?
Well, but even before then, so by the time I had my first degree, I was promoted to work. I was working for Aramark as a corporate controller, so I was managing $1 million budgets, and I had a staff. And so then I decided, because I was the only black female and I was the youngest at that time, I think I was about 24, you know, it was a male-dominated industry, so I decided I wanted to be more competitive. So then that's when I went back and got my master's degree in finance. It really wasn't because I needed it. I already had the job, but it was just one of those things where when I sat in a board meeting, you weren't going to dismiss me like I wasn't important or I was young or I didn't know what I was talking about.
Okay.
But it's funny that I have the master's degree in finance, because all of my friends know I really don't like math, but I know money, so I can that out, but I hate math. So the fact that I have, like, how did you get it? I'm like, no, I really went to class and got it myself.
So you got it, and then now what happens after that?
Well, it's so much in between that. So ironically, I had my son around the time that I finished my master's degree, and you know, it's so funny. I had worked in my job for almost 10 years, and by that time, I was going to go into labor. I was 2 months from graduation. I got laid off, so it was kind of depressing because everything that I thought my whole life since I was 10, remind you, I told you I was going to be a manager. I gave up most of my 20s to work in corporate. So when my friends were at the clubs and they were having fun, I was in the office. So it was kind of heartbreaking because that's what I knew my life to be, meetings and offices and things like that. So then after that, it just became one of those things where I was laid off. And then I got sick, as you know. So when I got sick, then everything actually happened at one time. So I felt like my world really had come to a crashing end, if you want to say. I didn't know what to do. I was lost. And at first, it was kind of hard.
So please share with everyone exactly what happened to you when you got sick. Because this was very, very interesting for such a young person to experience this.
Who you telling? So I had my son. I think I was 20. I was 28 years old, and he was about a month old. And I noticed that I was having problems breathing. You know, like any small task, it felt like I was running a marathon. So I thought, okay, I'm overweight. I just had a baby. I thought it was usual. Then it got to the point where I can really barely breathe, anything that I was doing. And so one day my grandma was like, you know what, bring the baby, you're going to the emergency room. And I had fought it because, who wants to go to the emergency room? And so after that, it was easy to, just not go. And so finally, I just couldn't take it anymore. So, I thought I was a doctor. I got on WebMD, and I was like, okay, I know what it is. I have pneumonia. I go to the emergency room, and I tell them I have pneumonia. They come back, guess what? You have pneumonia. And so I'm like, okay, in my true fashion, because I'm always on the go, I was like, okay, give me my medicine, let's go. And we noticed that it was taking them, kind of a long time to come back and talk to me. Like, okay, come on, I'm ready to go. I had a party to go to. So he came and he said, we're going to have to admit you because something looks wrong with your heart. I'm like, wait, what? Because, again, I had checked in with pneumonia that I had diagnosed myself. He says, you need to see the cardiologist. And so I'm like, okay, now this is getting a little serious, but we still had nothing conclusive. So then the next day, all the friends are visiting. We all laughing and joking because, again, we just joking. Everybody thought I checked in for pneumonia. And he came in essentially with a room full of people. I'm telling you, it had to be at least 10 people in that room. And everybody was my sister because, the hospital didn't allow. Didn't allow that. So my sorority sisters there, my friends are there. And it went down, and he basically said to me, he's like, well, you have cardiomyopathy. Well, of course, that means nothing to me because I don't know what cardiomyopathy means. So, in his, I guess in a way that I can understand, he said essentially, he said, Ms. Stroud, you could have dropped dead. I said, what do you mean? He says, well, your heart is working at only 28%. I said, so what is the normal number? He says, well, we like to see people's heart work at a minimum of 50%, and yours is about 28, 25. And so that's when everything the dynamic started to change. I'm like, oh, wait, this has gotten serious. But in my true fashion, I was okay, I'll lose a few pounds and it'll go away. Well, it didn't. So about 3 months later, I was getting ready to get my master's degree, and we were heading to outside. So anybody who knows anything about hearts, or obviously you're a doctor, so heat aggravates conditions. And so I was outside, and I didn't think I was going to make it through the graduation. I'm like, oh, my God, what's going on? So as soon as the graduation was over, I went to the hospital, and they upgraded it to congestive heart failure. And then I think about 3 to 6 months later, they wanted to do a defibrillator. I fought it, and then finally I said, okay, I have a son, so I'm going to do whatever they feel is best. And so we ended up with the defibrillator. So all of this at between the ages of 28 and 29. And after I got well,
wow,
I started talking about heart disease.
Yeah, so actually we'll parlay into the Bleeding Heart Project first. So can you please tell everyone about the Bleeding Heart Project?
Well, Bleeding Heart Project, well, I'm not going to lie. When I first got sick, I kind of had my own pity party. I couldn't understand why me. I had already been going through a lot of things in my personal life. I had a newborn son. So after I did the pity party, and I'm the kind of person that says, okay, so what am I supposed to learn from this, and what am I supposed to tell other people about it? Because, one thing, my grandmother has always been, really super strong, but the only time I think I've ever seen her scared was when they reeled me back into the room for the surgery for the defibrillator. And so, I didn't like that look on her face, and I didn't want anybody else to go through that same look or through the same tragedy because, you know, while we were sitting here thinking it was something that didn't happen to young people, it actually happens more often than people think. And a lot of people have stereotypes of what they think it looks like if you're overweight, if you're this, when, you know, young people, skinny people, everybody is affected by it. So anyway, I decided to start Bleeding Heart in around 2009, 2010, just as a way to kind of bring awareness to people under the age of 45. I think, you know, everybody pays attention to AIDS, which is fine, and cancer, but heart disease actually kills more people than all the cancers combined, the top 4 cancers combined. So that was just kind of my way of giving back and bringing awareness to something. I think a lot of times when people see me, because I don't act sick, or which I don't consider myself sick, or I don't look like what people think I should look like, they forget that I have the issues, and they don't really know the struggles. So I kind of try to bring awareness to it and try to figure it out at the same time. But I don't want it to hold me back, because I like, you know, I like to explore, I like to do things, and this is an issue that can, you know, hinder your health and your everyday living.
Definitely, definitely. So you get your heart situated, but you're still unemployed, right?
Yes, I am. So, and it was kind of hard, because one of the things that actually led to being sick, and on top of having the baby, which obviously, you know, does a lot to your body, my job was stressful. So it was kind of one of those things where it's hard running 2 offices with, you know, $15 million budgets apiece. And I'm unemployed. So that's how I was like, I'm bored. You know, I needed something to do with my time. And I think at that time, the employment, you know, it started to take a downfall along with the housing economy. And I kind of started my site, Soiree. It was really just something to get my mind off everything I was going through. It was a way to have fun. And it was a way to kind of express myself, even though I wasn't able to, you know, fully do the shopping and the things that I was used to doing when I was working in corporate America.
So what did your site start out as? Just talking about clothing? What did it start out as?
It started out as what it is now. And it's funny, because I think a lot of bloggers, they always do, you know, it was always talk of niche, which is fine. But I found that a lot of bloggers, when they necessarily niche, they always are trying to figure out how to get back to something different. So if somebody started out with a hair site, then they're always trying to figure out how to do other things, because their readers were only used to hair. My site always started off as fashion, beauty, and lifestyle. Kind of, you know, the things that I like, introducing new people. And in the process, I was learning to try new things. That way I can show my readers that, you know, hey, there are things to do outside of, you know, the everyday norm, new places to try. So it's always been fashion, beauty, and lifestyle.
And what year was it?
We started in 2010, so we're 5.
Oh, wow. Okay. It seems like it's been forever.
I know.
But I think you've made such progress in 5 years that's why it seems like it's been like.
It's funny. Like, my 2 babies, my son is 6, my blog is 5. It's just like they're both there.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Because I started when he was a newborn, so this is all he's ever really known me to do anyway. So it's funny, because he sees me. He talks blogger talk like he blogs. It's just funny. It's really funny.
So I mean, in 2010, blogging was not what it is today. So how did you even know where to start, and what was your was it a self-hosted website, or did you start on blogger.com or something?
When I started, I think I started on Blogspot all of 2 to 3 months, and then I couldn't do it anymore. So I was like, no, let's get self-hosted. So 95% of our life we've been on WordPress. But yes, it did start on Blogspot. And, you know, kind of, I knew what I wanted to do, because ironically, when I was a little younger, I wanted to be a wedding planner, which I don't know how, because I don't have the patience. But I always loved the name Soiree. And so I figured, you know, when you blog, I'm like, Soiree, that word and the way it's originally spelled will be taken. So I used the word phonetically. And I was like, that's my site. Because it's kind of, to me, when I talk about Soiree, it's just about enjoying life and trying new things. So, but yeah, we were self-hosting most of our life. It was easier, and I wanted my site to look the way that I wanted it to.
Which is very nice, may I add.
Right. It's a new dress.
But now, when did you join social media? Like, to get on, you know, to get a Facebook fan page, to get Twitter ID and all that stuff?
Almost immediately. The funny thing about it was, the first couple of months, I won't lie, it was a hobby, you know. And then when I started seeing how much time it was taking up, and I had to leave my son and things I had to do, then, because I do have a degree in business management, I said, okay, if we're going to do this, we're going to do this. Even if it was a hobby, it needed to be business related too. So I've always had that from day one. Like, when the site started, all of that started at the same time, because, like I said, I wanted to treat it like a business. It would be a waste of my degree if I didn't.
Yeah, well, this is true. And so Okay, so how soon after you started did you generate any kind of income from the site?
The first couple of months I played around, so I'm gonna say probably 6 months or so. Yeah, I'm gonna say about six months to 12 months, just because I can't. I feel like it's been around so long. I'm gonna say within 6 months, I believe it was.
And so, what was the first thing that you were able to garner because of your site?
Oh, geez. Again, I feel like the site is so old. Um, like a lot of hosting events, just brands, because at that time, I mean, there were blogging, obviously, but it was a lot of being able to work with brands. Like I remember hosting something for Garnier, and they usually, I've never seen them do too many things with the black bloggers, so that was kind of cool to host an event when they came to Chicago. So it was a lot of, working with brands and collaborations, and then a lot of events I was doing, especially when I started.
So, I mean, like I said, so you're one of the original like bloggers. So who did you, I mean, I guess because of your business management, that's how you knew, okay, well, I need to charge this much for this. And because like for me, I'm like, oh, well, I need to ask Raijean or I need to ask somebody because I don't know. Like, when people come to me and they want to do this, I'm like, okay, but what do I do? So
Right.
what did who did you look to? Like what mentors did you have, or did you just, because of your business background, you just figured it out?
Well, it was a combination of two things. One thing I was a firm believer in, because, blogging is very competitive. It's even more competitive now than it was when I started. So even before it got as competitive as it is now, I've always been the person that if I want to do something, I'm going to research it first. And then only after I've done the research will I ask somebody else for help. Whereas, sometimes bloggers get emails from people, they haven't started the site. They essentially want you to give them the whole secret. And the problem with that is everybody's secret doesn't work for everybody. So that was the first thing that was important to me. So when I started my site, I knew that it had to, from all my marketing class, and I knew that it had to have a name, and I knew, those kind of things. So then when I did need help, one person I remember helping me in the very early days was Danielle from the Cubicle Chick. She was very helpful. We're very good friends. But again, before I approached anybody or any questions, I did research. And then when I said to him, I said, hey, I looked this up. I don't understand. What do you think? So she was one. And there were a few people back then that were just very helpful. What you will find, though, too, is sometimes people are more willing to help you after they've seen some of the stuff you've done. So those so many people who you might have reached out to for help when I started, if they didn't ignore you or whatever, then it's funny to me how when they see you making a few moves, oh, if you need any help, well, honey, I done figured it out now. So,
Right.
and I try to, and like I say, I try to be helpful to people, but I also think that there's a fine line between doing the research and asking somebody to do it for you. So, I have no problems with helping somebody who's like, okay, I've done this, I don't understand it. But when you come to me like, girl, I don't have a name, well, what do you want me to do? I still have my own site to run. So, but I've had some good bloggers that's helped me, and that's, and a lot of research and just kind of a lot of late nights where, my son would be asleep and I would be working, trying to figure things out. And how things change. You're constantly trying to figure something out.
So you, I mean, literally have transformed just from blogging into, like you said, hosting. You just did a segment on WGN News, and you've done plenty of segments on different shows. You've traveled. Did you ever imagine that it would be this, or you still thought you'd be eventually quit this and go into corporate America?
I quit every day. I probably quit 5 times by tomorrow afternoon. It's funny. A lot of people said to me, they say, Raijean, even when I go to TV stations and I work, and they say, you act like you've done this before. And I did a little bit in high school, but I remember I went to high school in the 90s, and in the 90s, if you're going to go, well, I went to college in 98, damn. But I remember back then it was like, if you were going to get a degree, you wanted to make sure it backed you up. And whereas I would have loved to went to school for journalism, again, it was harder to get in journalism then than it is now, or not necessarily journalism, but the space, to even be able to appear in a TV show. So to me, it's funny because people say, well, you're so natural, why didn't you? Well, I wanted something guaranteed to pay the bills. So now it's funny that I feel like things have come full circle, but then on the flip side, I really just got started. Like it's so much that people don't know about me, and I kind of feel like in a way, even though things are not always easy, that God's leading me a certain place on his own that I wouldn't have gotten because I was so dedicated to corporate America. Like I say, I felt like when I lost my job, I lost everything because that was what I thought my identity was. But, you know, coming to see everything that I've been through and everything that I'm surviving and I've currently went through, you know, it's just, I feel like it's even more. That's bigger than even what I'm trying to do now. I think these are just stepping stones, to tell you the truth.
Right, I totally agree. I totally agree. And so you, like I said, you've taken it so far and you've been to, I mean, I think you've been to every blogging conference they've had, right?
Yeah, for the most part. You know, and it's fun because, you know, I like to learn, but I like to travel more than anything. And so
right.
Just the fact to say you've done some things, like to even say that I've done New York Fashion Week as official press was just one of those things like, you know, you think you can do it, but you never know that that's something that you can actually do. And sometimes it's funny because explaining to my grandmother is the funniest thing when I first started because she's used to corporate regime. And she's like, I just don't get it. And then it wasn't one day till I think I was in Essence for something. And I get in the car and she has this little magazine. She had been taking it around work. I said, oh, and then when I did TV, I said, now you understand, huh? So I think back then trying to get people just to understand what you're trying to do, because I was a corporate American girl, was the hardest part. But now I think people kind of understand, and a lot of people are doing it themselves. So
exactly, it's now it's commonplace.
Yeah.
You know, it's no big deal because there's so many people that do it. But back to what you said about researching, I always say if I am going to look it up for you, then you're going to pay me to look it up for you, or you can do it yourself.
Exactly.
So, because if you have not taken the first step, then please don't think I'm going to take it for you.
You want me to be a consultant? Is what you want? And consultant.
Exactly. I mean, so I'm like, either I can look it up or you can look it up, but I can't do it for you. So I said, not for free.
It's really a constant battle because I try to say, you know, I try to go from a place of, okay, you know, I've been blessed to do things, and I try to be a blessing, but again, you know, it starts with you. Work starts with you. So it's just trying to get people to understand that without sounding mean or, you know, because I'm not. But at the same time, if I'm taking away from what I could be doing for myself, then, you know, hey.
And that was something, because I'll say yes to a whole lot of things, but at the end of the day, I do have deadlines and stuff, and so I was like, wait a minute, this isn't adding up.
Yeah. I understand.
Yep. So it's very important that people understand, you know, you got to do some work yourself, and there's only so much, you know, people can do. So what would you say to the mommy blogger, well, the woman that is a mother that thinks she's stuck in her job and does not love that, she doesn't love her job, but it keeps her away from her kids for way more time than she would like? What would you say to that person about blogging?
And that's the thing too, like I am far from a mommy blogger. It's funny, for a long time, sometimes people didn't even know I had a child because my thing was I needed my site to be an outlet. Like I do talk about him on the site occasionally, but he doesn't make that many appearances. Because that's just not, you know, I think for me, it's important that I have my own identity. I'm a mother first, but I also have goals of my own. And so, you know, people who mommy blog, they tie that to, you know, their kids. And that's fine, because if that's what your life is every day, and that's fine. But I would really say, you know, actually, I feel like I was forced in this way. So my thing is, if it's a person who's working corporate and they want to do something else, I would say start little by little. I have so many friends who are entrepreneurs who have other things they want to do besides corporate. And I always tell them, you know, hey, especially if you don't have kids, or even if you have kids, then do it at night after they're gone to bed. Work on your business so that when you're ready to leave, you're perfected. Because, see, I was thrown in. I lost my job. And I got sick. So it wasn't like I was like, oh, hey. It was like, that's why I know that I feel like I have bigger things to do. Because not only so usually if you get laid off, you start looking for another job. But then to have a newborn and to be sick at the same time, I wasn't in a position where I could just hop up and find something new. So what I would say is, you know, work that job, stack up your bank account, and then at night, put all your money and all your extra business so that when you're ready to walk off, you're not wondering how you're going to pay the bills from A to Z. Because, you know, corporate money versus unemployment money that I was getting, honey.
Huge difference.
Honey. You know, so like I say, for me, I was thrown. And at that point, because I was sick and there was only so much that I could do, you know, I had to kind of make a way. And thank God I had good people in my life who helped with my son and just helped me. But, you know, I would definitely say continue to work that job, but work on your dream at night, work on your dream during the weekends, and stack your money. Put it in your bank account so when you're ready to walk off, You're not worried about how you're going to pay the mortgage or take care of the kids. And it's good if you're with somebody to have a supportive spouse or a supportive significant other to understand, but have a clear plan too. Don't just say, oh, I'm quitting my job today, and then think everything's going to, you're going to be P. Diddy. It's not going to work like that. So you have to really be dedicated, really, and the process will show you who's built to be an entrepreneur and who's not, because I'm telling you, I quit at least 5 times a day, even on a good day.
And I think that because most of the people on the show have been entrepreneurs, that is something that resonates, because it can be a lonely space, especially if you're sitting at home working, or you have an office and you're the company of 1 or 2.
Yep.
It can be awfully lonely. And, it is so funny. I had one person that watched the show, and she's like, you inspired me to keep going, because as an entrepreneur, I often sit there and think I'm not getting anything done. But, you helped me to realize, oh, wait, I've accomplished this, I've accomplished that, and I need to understand, because I'm the same way. I'm like, wait a minute, what are we doing? Where are we going? And so I understand you want to quit. Like, I'm like, oh, well, I'll just go. And I'm like, no, I'm not.
I'm not even a quitter. I said, I'm not even a quitter, but
you and me both. You and me both. I have to be quit before I'm not going to quit. So you'd have to quit me. There's no way. I'm not giving up. I just don't give up. That's not me. I'm playing. So, but I understand it's tough. It's very tough.
It's not built for the faint heart. And you have
not at all. Not at all. If you don't have thick skin and can take rejection on a regular, and
all day, every day, you just need to let it be. And you have to have a hustler spirit too, because it's kind of one of those things where if you're not going to work for you, who's going to work for you? And if mama needs to eat, mama has to work. So yeah, it's not built for the kind-hearted, I definitely say.
It's not. And I mean, and you're right. You have to have a hustler mentality, because you have to go get it, especially now, because there's so many people in that space. Exactly. You have to go get it, and you can't rest on your lawn. You've got to go get it. You can't wait till, well, they'll email me if they're interested. No, you need to remind them that you're interested.
Exactly, because they're getting emails all day, every day. So that's not. And like you say, and some of them, it wasn't as competitive. I mean, again, it was competitive, but now, oh my God, you're fighting with everybody. The teachers have blocks. Everybody has blocks. So that's why it's important to do more than one thing as well, though.
Exactly. Multiple streams of income is so extremely important.
Exactly.
So important. So speaking of that, you have Soiree Media Group. Mm-hmm. So what exactly do you do with that?
Well, that's really because, when you start doing multiple things, like I have Bleeding Heart, I have Soiree, and then, a little small division of Soiree, sometimes they want to talk about my son. So I have Soiree Mommy, which is just where I do talk about the boy child. So I needed something to kind of help me manage everything, because when I go out, I don't want to hand you 15 different cards. I feel like there's just too much going on. So basically it's me. So if somebody wants to hire me, whether it's to host an event, whether it's for me to speak, I do speaking. Sometimes I spoke for American Heart Association. Whether it's a video, that's kind of the hub where anything media related that somebody needs, then they go there, because sometimes it's not relative to Soiree. Maybe it's Soiree Mommy, or maybe it's Bleeding Heart. And then I'm working on a book, so then that'll be, when I get ready to revamp all of these things, then that will be the hub to kind of all things Raijean Stroud.
Now, I do remember you working on your book, because remember I sent you a message. It was like, what is this program you're using? It's telling you how many words you have. Because when I tell you I searched high and low and couldn't figure it out, I was like, let me just ask her. I'm taking too much time.
Easier, yeah. I love it.
When is your book going to be finished?
Well, the book is pretty much finished. I had to take some, I guess I like to say take some time, because the book is largely in part about my life. And like I say, a lot of things that people see now that's just such a small piece of what my story was.
Right. You don't look like what you've been through.
Exactly. And it's one of those things where you have to, I've been going through things since I was very small. So I always say, people go through things, but usually I feel like since I was born, and I had to believe in order to keep going, that everything was for a reason. And I truly believe when you look back over your life, you say, okay, what's the word, like if you were to pick a word to describe your life. And when I thought of my life, 2 words always came up, and it was always survivor, and I always felt like my purpose, no matter what it was to inspire other people. And it's funny, because I'm not that cliche kind of person, but I'm one of those people who I tell you like it is. I'm not going to pat you on your butt, but I feel like nobody can go through this many things and still look okay. Like I said, you don't know I've had heart surgery unless I tell you. You know, you don't know that I lost my job. You didn't, even when I lost my job, people were like, well, you still look, because my thing was I had to keep going. I have to be me. And so it's finished. I just felt like I had to live out a few more situations or storms per se that I was going through. So I'm ready. I'm ready to launch it. You know, and also, like I said, my story is very deep. And, you know, it's one of those things where people have to really kind of be ready for it, because they see the smile and we're talking about fashion and lifestyle, and honey, it's so much bigger than that. So, you know, you have to kind of get people kind of groomed for it, because when it hits, it's true. I don't hold back on what it was, and my goal is to hope that somebody else could see it and hopefully, you know, keep going. Because like you said, when I grew up, I didn't have any, oh, I'm gonna go to college. I was the first in my family to get a degree. So a lot of things I just knew I didn't want to be like my mother and father. So it's ready. It's just I'm getting ready to launch the platform to lead into the book this year.
Okay. And are you self-publishing or you have a publishing company?
I don't know. I mean, I haven't gotten that far yet, because, you know, like I say, for a minute, it was one of those things where I had to figure out, was the story done yet? You know, I'm a Virgo, I'm very into perfection. So it was just like it was feeling like it was never finished, or that maybe I had to wait a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I'm still in the middle of the storm. But then I came to realize, and through talking with friends, the story is never really over. And so I think I was just kind of waiting for something, and it's time to just let it go and go put it out there. So I haven't gotten that far, because the first thing I want to do before I even get that far is I'm going to release the platform for it first, and then kind of through that platform release the book through there. But
and I'm a Virgo too, so I completely understand the perfection.
So it just felt like was it ready? You know, you want to make sure you do it right, because you only get one chance. And the thing of it is, I don't want my story to get missed. You know what I mean? Because I've seen a lot, I've survived a lot, and I'm still standing in spite of. So I didn't want the story to get missed, and I just wanted it to be perfect, and it's never going to be perfect. So it's time to share the story.
If anyone has any questions, we can take those shortly. Just click on the bottom of the screen if you're on YouTube and it says join our audience or something. Click on that, and then it'll take you to the Google Hangout, and the Q&A is on the upper right-hand corner. There's 9 white boxes. If you click there, it'll say Q&A, and then you can ask your questions. You can try tweeting them. If you tweet them, hashtag Ask Dr. Renee Show, or tweet me at Ask Dr. Renee. And I will try and see those questions. But please feel free to send in any questions you may have for myself or Raijean. So that is very interesting. See the to read the book, because like I said, I was following you as every day you were like, this many words, this many words. I was like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I'm so I really 10,000 people have told me I need to write this book about this and this book about that, and Renee hasn't written not one book about anything.
But you know, funny though, I'm going to tell you something, Renee. When I started writing it, because again, that Virgo in me, I updated that because it holds me accountable. Because then what would happen is people say, well, where's the book at? What was it? And like I said, I still had some thinking to do. But you know, it's weird, because for me it's an emotional time, because I've always been the strong person. But then to go back into childhood, and then to realize how much you've truly seen that, you know, kids shouldn't see, and then to say, you know, how do you get beyond that and not be scarred? It was very emotional. And then even talking about the murder of my dad, it was just like, wow, you know, you kind of forget these things because my parents have been gone for a while, but then there's those moments where you remember something. It's just, it was very, very emotional, and it still is. And I think that could have been probably the reason why I put it down for a little bit, because I'm like, oh wow, this is a lot, you know, because you try not to relive the worst times of your life, but in order to inspire somebody or to even get your story out, you have to go back into those times where you don't want to remember.
Definitely, definitely. And I understand the whole accountability thing too, because of the show, because I can talk myself out of every single great idea I ever had.
Exactly.
And this would have been one of them.
Mm-hmm.
This would have been one of them. And what I did was I emailed 5 people who were friends of mine, but at the same time, they're so-called celebrities. And I was like, they're not going to say yes to this, because this is the craziest thing I've ever come up with.
Right.
And they all said yes. And that's when I said, shoot, now I got to email them back with dates.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's how I keep even with my weight loss that I've been, you know, I have to do something.
Yes, I know. I was going to talk about that.
Like, it has to.
Yes. Yeah. So when did you start your weight loss, this weight loss journey you've been on? Because you've been killing it.
I've been knowing that I needed to start it for a while, but I'll say in November when I did that my appearance, I think I did on one of the stations, and my face head was, girl, it was round. I looked like Santa Claus. It was just horrible because I have high cheekbones. So Mama was looking like, and I just like, I can't do this, but I wasn't feeling my best because, on top of dealing with the weight loss, I have to deal with how I feel because of the heart failure and things. So I'm going to say I went to Vegas in January at CES, and I've been to CES probably 3 or 4 years in a row. And I was too tired to do a lot of stuff. And after that, I was like, you know what, it's time. I know it's
Wait. What is that you went to? Tell us, because not everyone knows.
It's a consumer electronics show in Las Vegas, and it's 5 days. Yes. And honey, when I tell you, you probably walk like 40 miles in 1 week. It's very labor intensive. I went there and I did fine, but then I started not feeling my best, and I'm just like, you know what, this is it. Plus, unfortunately, not unfortunately, I'm turning 35 this year, and Mama just needs to be fine. So, but we started about the second week of January.
Okay.
I came home, I took my extensions out and put these braids in, and that's how I knew it was serious. I'm like, it's time to do it. And then I worked out for a little while before I said anything, just because, again, before I make all my moves, I need to make sure I'm fully in it, because weight loss is a hard thing and weight gain is a hard thing. So I'm like, no, Mama needs to be fine. I'm gonna be 35, so But yeah.
But I mean, it's working. I've seen before and after. Well, we'll call them before and during pictures.
Right, because we're still.
Exactly, because that's me. Before and during, we're still moving in the right direction.
Yeah.
So I've seen, and I'm like, I can see in your face. I was like, oh my goodness.
You know what? It's funny. I think I know that I heard or read somewhere. I think that somebody said if you do something, 21 days, 6 weeks, or whatever, it becomes a habit. Yep. And it's funny because like stuff that I don't even like now, I'm just finding myself, like before our call, I ate Brussels sprouts. I don't like Brussels sprouts. But I have to. And not only that, I do have bleeding heart. And one thing about me is I like to be truthful, and it's kind of hard to keep preaching the word about heart disease and getting healthy when you're struggling with your own health. So that's part of one of the things I wanted to relaunch with bleeding heart, but I needed to start with myself. So, again, it's about that accountability thing.
Definitely. So we do have a question, Melissa Miller. How do you get strangers to come to your website? Like generally marketing outside of your inner circle, basically.
Honey, I'm going to tell you, the strangers are the ones who visit your site. I mean, I love my friends. I love close people. But those are not the ones who get up and go on your site every day. The people who go on your site are the people you don't know. And the funny thing about it is those are the people who go the hardest for you, are people who don't know you. But I will say the utilization of social media has always been great for me because, I use hashtags and I use things like that. But, honey, the strangers are the ones that come to the site.
And I have to agree with you 100%. I can probably count on one hand how many of my relatives have actually seen my website.
Right. I think my grandma.
I'm talking about outside of my mom and my dad and my sister. Well, I can probably count on one hand.
I begged my sister to go on my site. She's like, did you go on the site? They'll get on everybody else's site. So it's always the strangers who will go.
Oh, no. Now, my sister goes hard in the paint. My sister, if you've seen on Facebook, my sister will sit there. Like today, she said, Renee really does interview some really big game changers, and the show motivates and inspires me. You should watch. Oh, no, my sister, I call her the EP of the show.
But let me borrow her because clearly, but to my sister's defense, she's in nursing school, so she really, but right. I always tease her. But yeah, honey, the biggest people that come to your site are generally. And actually, because my site it depends on what kind of site you have. Because I have a lifestyle site, when I started trying to get people, I didn't know I did like giveaways and things to kind of, incentives to get people. I would partner with companies, and then they would do giveaways, and that would kind of get them there. And then, you hope to capture at least 50% of those who come interest, and then help to keep them coming back.
Definitely. But yeah, I completely agree. It's those strangers. Like, I mean, I have regular people that watch the show that are not related to me, that I have no idea who they are, and they watch every week, and I'm like, thank you so much. I'm like, please tell others. But yeah, I don't even worry about my family anymore, because the funny thing is, I do realize that the ones that probably should be watching aren't watching, but as soon as something happens, all of a sudden they'll be there, and I'm just gonna be like, and where were you?
Yeah. But
when we were,
I told you that, and that happens a lot. And it's funny because not even on purpose, but I call my boy child the boy child in real life. Not because I'm hiding his name, because some bloggers do hide their kid's name, just because that's the habit. And it's funny, I'll go somewhere and they'll see us and be like, is that the boy child? Or somebody will come up to me and tell me something that I forgot that I did that I don't even know. Or you know how you can go to somewhere and they're like, hey, Raijean, and I'm like, is that me?
Do I know this person? Right.
And I'll ask my photographer, do I have to do it? And I'm like, but I'll still be nice because you never know who watched.
Right.
But even in church today, the girl was sitting next to me. She kept looking. She says, "You were on TV a few days ago." I'm saying, "Oh yeah," And again, those are the people who come to your site. Or
right. And just like, just social media, everything. People are always, aren't you?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah. I was in Chipotle the other day. I'm in Atlanta, and this girl was like, Dr. Renee, and I'm like, hi.
Because you're thrown off. And
I just froze, like, I have no idea who this person is, and I remember names and faces. So I was like, and then she said who she was, and blogging groups together, and several groups on Facebook, and I was like, oh yes, okay, but I just didn't know right away.
Honey, I just act like I know them, and then when they leave, I'm like, why do I? I'll ask them, do you know? Because people get really offended too if they do know you. And
you're right.
So I'm
you're
like,
right.
I don't want to fight. Hey girl, how you doing?
So what do you think was the lesson that took you the longest to learn?
To not be afraid what other people think. I think a lot of things have held me back because I was wondering how other people would perceive them. Like I say, even as I get ready to drop my story in the book, this is deep stuff, and some people are not ready to deal with that kind of thing. They want everything to be butterflies and rainbows. And so for me, a lot of things, I'm always questioning myself, and I think I worry so much about what other people think that it's held me back from doing what I need to do. And even when I started, like for the book, for example, the only person who approval I felt I needed was my grandmother, because when you share your story, you share your family story. And once she said, okay,
right.
Nobody else really matters, Nobody else matters. So I think that's the big lesson. If you feel it and you pray on it and you feel like that's what you've been led to do, what's your purpose, then do it. You know how much time we waste questioning ourselves?
Too much. And concerning yourself with what other people think. What other people think of me is really none of my business. And I got that from Bevy Smith. She always says that. And I totally agree. And my sister, it was funny, I overheard her talking about me one day to somebody. And she said, my sister, she just doesn't care what anybody thinks. And I was like, really? I don't?
That's what you're saying.
And then I thought about it, and I was like, I guess I do just do what I do, and I don't worry about it. I just do it.
To a point, because when you think about it, most of those people who have so much to say, honey, if you did a background check on them, their closets are probably much worse. So, who cares? At the end of the day, you have to figure out what's life about. I'm in my 30s now. What's the lesson I'm supposed to learn, and then what am I supposed to do with that? And I do believe once I learn a lesson and once I figure something out, I'm supposed to share it. Because I tell people everything that I've gone through, from the job loss to the heart disease to, my story, even with my son and everything else, I could have kept that to myself. But I felt like if I shared it, it might just help somebody else. And there are young girls who say, Raijean, they're having, just say, heart issues or something that they scared to do, and they'll inbox me. And it feels good to be able to give them information, but that's because I felt like I shared my story.
Right.
You help if you keep it to yourself.
Definitely. What is your definition of success?
My definition of success, because I'm always one striving for it, I think for me now, what I realize is when I reach what I feel like my purpose is. And again, I told you my one word for my entire life is to inspire. So when I feel like I've inspired people, and I mean on a greater scale, then I'll feel successful. But I think when you figure out what you feel your life's purpose is and you've reached it, that's success.
Definitely. What's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
Oh, Jesus. Ooh, Steve Martin had a quote. It was always my greatest quote, and I forgot it. I will say, really to just be myself. I think the funniest thing about me is what I've come to find in this whole social media game, right, is those people who are such great personalities on social media and who are such you know, people think are everything are really the ones when you meet them are so dry. And for me, I feel like I'm the reverse. So my persona online is not even as big as my personality is. I feel like I've held back because, again, having a business background, I've not fully been able to be myself. So I think now I'm getting to the point where I kind of want to share, like, you know, if this doesn't work out, sometimes I could be a part-time comedian. You know, I just feel like I haven't shared who I was fully, and not just the fun part. You know, I curse like a sailor. I do all kind of things, and it's funny because when people see me outside, they're like, oh, I didn't know, you know, because they don't see that. But I just think it's funny, you know, people who are social media presence, and, you know, you see them in person and they're not the same. So I'll say for me is to really just try to share more of who I am, my personality.
You know, and I'm the same way. Because I understand that people are watching, and I do not need them to see the wrong thing. And not to mention, I do a lot of speaking engagements for kids, and I tell them, what you put on the internet is in perpetuity, meaning it will be there forever.
Yeah. So
for that reason, it is best that you watch what you put up there. So I am the queen of the delete button. I will type it out because I'm mad at something.
I don't even get it up there to delete it, so you're doing better than me.
No, I'll type it out and be like, oh my God, what was I thinking? And delete it in a minute.
Backspace.
Right, exactly. But it might just get typed.
And that's funny because I work with a lot of brands too, and so I just, you know, it's trying to find the medium to who I am, and also to be respectful of what it is I do and who I hope to become one day. You know, so.
And I think that I look at social media, all of it, including my personal Facebook page. I look at all of it as business. Yeah. So therefore, I'm not going to be ratchet. You're not going to see me say or do anything crazy. I do not purposely take pictures with any kind of alcoholic beverages in my hand. And if you find one with one in it, that was a very old picture, because when I tell you, I will put that thing down before I will never. I just don't.
Well, you know, you're better than me. I won't say that I didn't go through my ratchet social media days. I did. I will, honey. And back in 2000, you know, woo, honey. But I learned when I started to delve into this world. So I'm like, you know, you can't judge me. I was young. I was in my 20s. But, you know, I've learned. So like you say, even my personal page, I don't even talk about things. If something pisses me off, now if I have a bad day, occasionally I'll share, because my thing is, you never know who somebody else is going through a bad day, or they're going through the exact thing. You never know what your words can say to help them. But for the most part, yeah, even my personal page is all the way toned down from when I first started Facebook.
Right. And I mean, and it's funny because, you know, my friends, we took a road trip a couple years ago to the inauguration, and my girlfriend was like, I just had no idea about you.
When I tell you, to know me in real life is to love me, because I'm telling you, I probably could take my show on the road. I probably could, but yeah, it's funny. That's why I say
my close friends are like, you need a reality show. They need to follow you. I said, I don't need anybody in my business like that.
And my poor friends, some of the things that I say, and I'm just like, I feel bad for them, because you wouldn't have no clue I talk the way I do. But it's me. It keeps me young, and you know, it is. I know the difference, and I know the fine line between when and where.
Exactly. And this young lady this week, she showed me her Twitter page, and it had an egg, and she said her page was private anyway. I said, do me a favor, don't add me, because I don't follow eggs.
I know.
I said, so you don't have to worry. I'm not going to tweet you till you find yourself a picture. And then her social media numbers were so bad, and we were at this, you know, speakers boot camp, and I'm like, you're 20 something. Why are your numbers so bad? And she says the next day, she says, you know, what you said about social media was so true. It was a little harsh and it stung a little, but it was true. I said, oh, well, I shoot straight, no chaser. That's just the way I am. You know, filter not much there. And just silent.
Much non-existent. But I will say this, though, because a lot of people, you're a Virgo, so a lot of people misinterpret us, but it's all done in love. And I think I expect it the same way. If I come to you, tell me I'm wrong. Tell me, you know, this is not right, or you shouldn't have said this, or whatever, because that's how I talk. So I'm not for the faint of heart if you're very sensitive. I have a few friends, and but they just love me and they ignore me now, and that's just what they do. And
that's me exactly. And when I was younger, my sister is younger, and she couldn't take it. That girl dishes it so hard now, though, Raijean. I'm telling you, like when I first started the show, she would send me like this page-long email of all the really wrong, and don't ever do that again. And thankfully, I have thick skin.
Right.
I didn't cry, and I knew that she was trying to help me. But when I tell you that girl, she can be brutal.
Yeah. It's almost like raising little minions. And my little sister's 10 years younger than me, and that girl right there, I don't know. She's so much like me, but it works because,
Right.
like, everything is done in love. It's just, that's who I am as a person. And, I think a lot of who people are based on what they've seen and what they've gone through in life. And in life, we didn't play around. Everything was straight to the point. So that's how I am. But again, it's done in love. I'm never malicious or mean-spirited. I mean it.
Right, exactly. And my thing is, and if anybody knows me, they know I would love if I could. So I'll help everybody. So when I tell you something, I'm really trying to help you. It's not because I'm hating on you or anything. I'm trying to help you to get where you're trying to go. Because I don't want to be by myself at the top. I want us all to be here.
And it's so the thing about it, it's room for everybody to do their own thing. It's just finding what it is you want to do. I don't have time to sit there and hate on what somebody else is doing because I'm busy sending out emails so I can do something, And that's the thing. I think you spend too much time worrying about what everybody else is doing. Spend a little time in your own grass and you'll be okay.
Exactly. So do you have a favorite quote or scripture?
Favorite quote scripture? I do, but I've clearly developed Alzheimer's since I've got on this phone. I will say Steve Martin, I finally remembered it. It only took me 20 minutes, but he said, be so good that they can't ignore you. And so I agree. When, people, sometimes you get intimidated when you're around people who know more, who've done more. But my thing is, if you bring your A game and you do the best that you can do, make sure they remember you. And that's even, when I did my first, I've never done scripted TV or anything like that. All of my TV appearances have always been live TV for whatever reason, which is the most stressful kind of TV. Those 5 minutes you're up there. And so my thing was I was going to do so good that they were going to ask me back. And, I go to these stations, they say, you seem like you've done it. So, again, it's always about being good, and I try to prepare, and I study. And, if you want it bad enough, you just have to work hard. And, it doesn't come overnight, but eventually you'll get there in prayer.
Definitely. Hard work pays off.
It does.
Faith without works is dead. So between the two, you should be able to get it done.
I agree.
So these are some sentences I got from my lovely Miss Oprah Winfrey. And so if you finish these sentences with the first thing that comes to mind, and it could be a word, it could be a phrase.
Okay.
Just real quickly. So the world needs
more inspirational people.
I believe in
the power of God.
Love is
Love is, I don't know, what would I want to say? I would have to say love is, it's amazing when you're open to it.
Branding is
essential.
My job is
hard. No, my job is my life. It's me. It's who I am.
So please let everyone know how we can support you on any of your current projects you have going on, your social media contacts and all that. And of course, I will type up everything and put it in the box below, but just let everyone know.
Well, my main site is Soiree.com, and that's SWARAI.com. And on social media, I am at Soiree Blog, SWARAIBLOG. In a few months, we're going to get ready to launch this platform to kind of introduce you to the book. And I'll give you guys the title of the book for now. It's Drug Addict's Daughter. So it's basically what it says. And it's going to be rough and it's going to be brutal, but I know it's going to help some people. So that will be very important to me, and that's the next step. And I'm looking forward to it. And
then how can they find out more information about Bleeding Heart Project?
You can go to we're revamping the site, but it's bleedingheartproject.org is our website. And then we are updating Facebook, and that's under Bleeding Heart Project as well. We're going to try to relaunch some things this year because we officially got our 501c3.
Congratulations.
At the end of last year. It took forever. So now that we are official, we're going to revamp and redo that as well. So looking forward to it.
That's wonderful. And she does a lovely Bleeding Heart Project event every year that I've attended, and it was fabulous. So hopefully more people can find out about that and attend that next time.
Yes, in February.
Thank you, Raijean. Oh, in February, of course, and Heart Month. Red for heart disease. So Thank you, Raijean, for sharing your story with us this evening. I know that many people will benefit from your words. And I hope that we've inspired and motivated somebody to please, you know, make a change in your life, because like she said, she, you know, had heart disease at 28.
Yeah.
You know, well, you know, and that's not that it's uncommon, but you know, if she had not gone to the hospital, it could have been a death sentence. So live your life today, because unfortunately we just don't know what's going to happen tomorrow.
True.
And so hopefully we've motivated and inspired somebody tonight. And if you have any other questions, please feel free to contact us both via social media, and we can hopefully get an answer for you and help you to live the life that you deserve. You can now hear every episode of the show on iTunes. If you search Ask Dr. Renee, the podcasts are available for free, no charge, and they will have literally just the audio of the entire show. And you can also reach me on social media at Ask Dr. Renee across all platforms. So that's Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. And feel free to go to my website, of course, AskDrRenee.info. In the past 2 weeks, we've had some big things for Ask Dr. Renee. I wrote a blog post about Daisy Llewellyn and her bile duct cancer diagnosis that was posted on Madame Noir and ended up being shared across a whole bunch of other websites. So please go read it on Madame Noir. Secondly, and the link is, if you go to my website, there's a link to the site, to the article on Madame Noir. And then this week, I wrote a post about Chrisette Michelle and Len Payne, her brother, who was diagnosed with bipolar disease many years ago. And they have taken that discussion to the television by discussing it on R&B Divas LA and opening up a whole new dialogue about mental health, which is so extremely, extremely important. I'm sure you would agree as well, Raijean, how important mental health is in our community. So please go read those articles, and hopefully I gave information so that you might be able to help somebody to diagnose that they have a problem so that they can go get professional help. So please read those articles so that you might be able to help a family or friend. I hope that we've motivated and inspired at least one of you, and please feel free, like I said, to comment or email us. Next week, same time, same place, we will have Renee Seiler. Renee Seiler sat basically in the same seat that Gayle King is sitting in now on the CBS Early Show. But most importantly, she is the Good Enough Mother. And I say that because that is the name of her book, as well as her website, which I blog for, The Doctor Is In, goodenoughmother.com. And she will be our guest next week. So please bring your questions, because she has a very interesting story as well about how she ended up writing the book and how she got to where she is now in life. And she and I, just like Raijean, she hustles hard too, and she works really hard, and she started in this game early on too and taught herself a lot of stuff too. So it's really going to be a very interesting show for a lot of the entrepreneurs out there. So I hope you'll watch. Thank you so much. Everyone have a good evening.
Good night.